Went out and got some plywood today. Two 4x8 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. I had them rip it there so it would come down to being two 4x4 or four 4x4 pieces of plywood. And that is because I'm going to use that to make a flip top cabinet for my sliding miter saw. And most of the stuff I've looked at on YouTube and some other places, they do it with a regular one. I haven't found too many that do it for the longer one. Plus I want to have a lot of storage. And then what else too is going to go on there, I don't know if you can see it over there, I'll zoom in a little bit, is my planer. So I have my DeWalt planer and then my miter saw that's going to go into this cabinet I'm going to build. And then I'll have storage on the bottom for tools, blades, and so on. So that's the beginning of what this project will look like. And as I start to do the cutting and lay out stuff like that, I'll keep you informed with everything that I'm doing. Okay, so this is the way my garage looks right now. I'm building a flip top cabinet for my planer and my miter saw. So I've made some cuts on the table saw, and this just kind of gives you an idea just how crowded it is in here. It's just about got enough room to change your mind. That's about it. But anyway, when I get done with all these projects, it'll be nice. I'm making an outfeed table for my table saw also. So this is the next step. I got some of the plywood cut down and trimmed. I've got a few more pieces to go, and then I can start assembling my flip top. Anyway, I will post and try to link all the videos together so it makes a little more sense for you. All right, thanks for watching. Okay, this is what I've got going next. So I have the piece, I've taken my measurements. So 1.5 inches from both of these corners, I have a place to drill. 1.5 inches in here, 1.5 inches from both ends here. And those are going to be, excuse me, that's going to be where the rod sets, that lets it pivot. And this is going to be where the locking parts are. Okay, so I have out here my 3/4 bit, Forstner bit. It's going to be for the pipe. I'm going to use 3/4 inch pipe. I have a 5/16 bit that's going to go into each of these corners over here, and that's going to be where I'm going to have a swivel to make the thing lock so it can't go. And it'll be on both boards. I'm only doing one board to kind of show you what's going on, but it'll be done the same way on both boards. So I'm going to go ahead and drill out, and it's all the way through. There's some in the future that won't be all the way through. Oh, you know what? See, getting ahead of myself. First, I want to make sure I clamp this down. Done that before. Forget to clamp something and then put a little pressure on it because it sticks out farther than what the bench is, and wind up going, oh wow, that didn't work. So yeah, got to remember to do some of these things. I get ahead of myself sometimes. I like to blame it on age. So I'll do this one. Get it somewhat straight. And it's done. Now let's see here. I have a little vacuum somewhere around here. Let's see. There it is. I'm going to suck this up. So that takes care of that. Now I'll switch out my bits and I'll go to a 5/16. The same thing, I have 2 holes here, and again, this is going to be done on both boards, so I won't bother you with both of them. Okay, so now I have the hole for the pipe and 2 holes that are going to be for my swivel, and that'll be good for that. So I've got my drill, 5/16 bit again, and my Forstner bit, which was 3/4 for the 3/4 inch pipe that's going to go through here. Of course, my squares and my clamps and stuff. So that's this, and I'll do the next piece and get it to look like this, and then we'll go on from there. So what I have here now, what I have is a 35-inch by 35-inch square piece of plywood. I have another piece over here I'll be working with. This is going to be for the 2 sides of the flip station I'm making for my miter saw and my planer. So I'm going to go through what I'm going to be doing next, how I'm measuring it out, how I'm putting my lines in, where I'm drilling holes. I've gleaned from DIY Montreal, which is up in Canada. She has a very put together way she did hers. I needed to glean from that and take what I needed to make it a little bit bigger. But if you have a sliding miter saw, for me, I didn't want stuff sticking out of the smaller build. I wanted something that was bigger so I could go ahead and not have stuff sticking out, because knowing me, I'm gonna walk by and a part of the miter saw is sticking out, because it is, and I'll run into it every time because it's a small little garage. It is on casters, but I didn't want to get myself jacked up. So I'm going to go ahead and start measuring and letting you know what I'm putting down as far as holes and cuts and stuff like that. And then also at the same time being able to start assembling here hopefully pretty soon. So that's what I'm doing next. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. One of the holes that I've drilled that's going to be for the locking mechanism, I have a couple lines on it so you can see it on the edges. I have my square clamped to the plywood. Plywood's clamped down. And then my scroll saw here, I'm going to use my square as a guide to come right down where I need on the line over here, if you can see that. So then what that does is give me 2 straight lines by using the square. And so then I'll have a nice piece here cut out on both sides of both pieces of wood. And that'll be again where my lock pulls through and comes up and does all that good stuff. Anyway, so that's what's happening. That's there. My square is locked in tight. This gap is where my jigsaw blade will hit. And then I'll go and do it on the other side. Okay, in this video, what I'm doing is showing the next step. These are the tools I'm going to need to complete the next step. Again, this is on my flip top cabinet for my miter saw and my planer. So we have here, first, a regular big square. I have another square here, and another square. I'm going to use all 3. You can do it any way you want to do it, but that's what I do. This piece of wood is actually on top of my router cabinet that I built. It's clamped down, making sure it can't go anywhere when I start drilling or cutting or whatever I'm going to do. So I have 2 different sizes of bits. I have a 3/4 inch Forstner bit and a 5/16 bit in my other drill. I have a little jigsaw here, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and then another square that I'm going to be using. So what I'm doing is I've marked off, I don't know if you can really see it, but this dot right here, I'm going to drill there, and I have the same thing up over here on this one right here. I'm going to be drilling, and that is going to give me my slot that I need to go in between both sheets of plywood, excuse me again, and go ahead and make my locking mechanism so this thing just doesn't spin free. So that's what my next step is, and I'll videotape that and we'll see how it goes. Okay, what I'm doing now, so I've got my little square here. I'm going to come up just inside of each of these holes, right on the edge of it. I'm going to draw a line up. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. And I'm going to do the same over here. Okay. So now I have a couple lines here and here, and what I'm going to do is take my scroll saw there and I'm going to cut this to get rid of this piece in here, and that's where this thing can pivot then through. So I have my skill saw, got everything ready, got to get the extension cord for that, and I'll be cutting these out. I did one without thinking, and I start to cut it this way on another piece of wood, not realizing that I wanted everything to go with the grain. So this is my makeup for that mistake. Oh, look at, you can see here, I did it wrong again. I don't want to cut that way. I want to cut it this way. See, it's a good thing I checked. Might have made the same mistake twice. And that's no fun. So now this goes away, this goes away. So that way my cuts come out side to side. Terrible getting old. Sometimes you don't remember what you do. You put a tool down, you can't find it. But anyway, so that's the next step that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I have my square clamped here. I've measured it out so my plate here will ride up against this, making sure everything squares, and I'm going to cut these two lines here and pull this piece of little wood out. And again, it's going to happen on both boards. I'm not going to, bother showing you on every one because it's going to be the same. So I've already got this lined up. So then all I've got to do is cut it. So there's one. Now I'll move this over till I get the next one. And it's not a whole lot different. I'll just take this loose, keep my square tight. Looks pretty good right there. Tighten it up. Again, I'm using this square to make my cut square. Okay, it's a little bit off on that one, but that's no big problem. A little bit of sanding, it'll be good to go.